Today on Hearts of Heroes, a man and his wife are left clinging to a buoy in open water when their boat sinks off the Georgia coast.
As soon as we got on scene, the boat was about halfway sunken.
As we were getting close, we're like, there's two survivors hanging onto the buoy.
Plus, a sheriff deputy rushes into a blazing fire to rescue the elderly residents inside.
The house was fully involved. The flames were rolling out of the roof.
This is bad.
She said, I can't open my door. I can't open my door.
We need to get these people out as soon as possible.
When all seems lost, heroes are on the way.
It is the ultimate escapist fantasy. Buy a luxury boat, sail off into the horizon. But for one couple and their dog, that dream was a reality that turned into a seaborne nightmare.
Luckily, the United States Coast Guard is always ready. And when the Mayday call went out, these brave rescuers flew in.
The oceans and many waterways throughout the United States are kept safe thanks to the dedicated members of the U.S. Coast Guard. While their duties include maritime security and law enforcement, they serve another critical function.
We primarily do search and rescue missions. If someone is out on a boat in the ocean or a small river around and they need assistance, we are their primary means of coming out and rescuing them and help save them.
The bustling port city of Savannah, Georgia, keeps their local Coast Guard very busy.
There's so much traffic down here for all kind of boating, whether it's sailboats, recreational boats, fishing boats, whatever. The more traffic, the more we're needed around.
So Air Station Savannah, we have 5 helicopter units. 1 aircraft is stationed here, fully ready to go in Savannah at all times, 24/7.
Miles Coleman has a home in Port Charlotte, Florida, and has plenty of experience navigating the water.
9.5 years in the Navy, so a lot of water safety-related courses.
After he retired, Miles and his wife April decided to buy their own boat.
48 foot long, 24 feet wide, 4 bedrooms, staterooms, main living area, very comfortable, very roomy. You have beautiful views all around the boat. It was kind of the dream for many years to be on a liveaboard boat.
In May of 2023, Miles and his wife, along with their dog Reggie, set sail from Florida, heading up the East Coast. But on day 9, just off the coast of Savannah, Miles could tell something was wrong.
The boat was acting differently. It was sluggish. It was just not the same boat. And shortly thereafter, the alarms came on for high water in the boat.
As Miles steered the boat on the upper deck, April went below deck, where she found massive flooding. As both put on their life jackets, April lowered the dinghy, and Miles radioed the Coast Guard while activating the boat's emergency beacons.
The sinking boat had an emergency locator beacon called an EPIR, a valuable device found in many types of watercraft.
I told her, take the dog, get in the dinghy.
But when April put their dog, Reggie, in the dinghy, he panicked, flipping their only means of escape. Now, Reggie and April were in the water, floating away from the boat.
The current and the tides were taking her away from me and the boat.
Miles made the split decision to jump in and save his wife.
Looked at the boat and thought, we can replace the boat. It was just she and I and wherever the dog was. So that was pretty much the thought process in a very short period of time.
But with the boat sinking and the dinghy upside down, the couple had nowhere to turn. Coming up, Miles and his wife find themselves adrift in the open water.
As we tried to swim the current in the channel, we weren't making much progress.
Miles and April Coleman, along with their dog Reggie, were sailing up the East Coast when their boat started taking on water. After April and Reggie fell in and began drifting away, Miles went in after them.
I jumped in the water and I looked at the boat and I said, goodbye. The boat's non-salvageable at that point. It had taken on a lot of water and was starting to sink.
They were now in the open water.
So I looked around and I thought, well, that beach is probably the closest. And as we tried to swim towards it, the current in the channel, we weren't making much progress. So I saw a large buoy about the same distance from the other direction. So we went to that. It was much easier to swim to that. When we got to the buoy, we turned, and there was the boat, and there was the dog on the top of the boat, standing there looking at us like, well, what are you guys doing?
Realizing that any attempt to rescue Reggie would put him at risk, Miles decided to wait for the Coast Guard, who by now had received the distress call.
There's a request in the launch for someone in dire need of assistance. We hopped in the aircraft and headed out.
The helicopter that they use is the MH-65 Dolphin, primarily designed for search and rescue missions. On board were 2 pilots, a flight mechanic, and a rescue swimmer.
As soon as we got on scene that day, we saw a boat off in the distance. The boat was about halfway sunken. It must have been stuck on some sort of obstruction under the water, so it wasn't moving that much, but it was clear that it was sinking.
As we were getting close, we're like, there's 2 survivors right there, 2 survivors hanging on to the buoy.
We opted to use a harness deployment, which is me putting Brian down with the hoist cable, and then he's gonna swim over to the survivors, assess the situation.
These kinds of rescues can be dangerous. They require precise teamwork between the rescue swimmer, the flight mechanic, and the pilots.
It's really a 4-person job to make sure that we can get that person or persons out of the water. We have hand signals that we use to communicate between us and the flight mechanic, and then from there, they can either adjust the cable or tell the pilots to adjust how they're flying.
As a flight mechanic, basically what I'm doing is I'm talking to the pilots, hey, we're going forward and right 5, easy forward and right, left, however it needs to go.
Once they positioned the helicopter over the buoy, rescue swimmer Brian Johnson was lowered down.
My wife did have some rib injuries, and she was talking about shortness of breath as we sat there holding on to the side of the buoy. But I was like, they're gonna do their procedures and take care of us.
First, I have to assess if either one of them's injured. I kind of get a small injury report, but almost immediately they're telling me to go rescue the dog that's still on the boat.
And the overlying thing in the back of my mind is the dog, because he's sitting there and that boat might be going down.
I pretty much explained to them, I already have contact with you, so we're gonna get you first and get the dog afterwards. I was able to easily talk them into getting the young lady up first.
Because April was injured, they needed to hoist her up in a basket.
At that point, I go back into the baggage compartment and I'll grab the basket out, hook that up to the hoist cable, and then we will begin the hoist evolution.
We were able to get her into the basket and send her up.
She was pretty cold. She was shivering. She was definitely scared.
I stayed down with the other survivor, and him and I had a very long conversation about how he wanted the dog to be taken first. He even asked me to swim over to the boat and leave him there.
I was trying to convince him that he's not that far away. I don't know if he's gonna jump off, then we have additional issues.
If you leave a survivor to go do something else, who knows what could happen in the meantime? So you just don't want to take that chance.
His training and his professionalism said clearly, we're not getting the dog. But once we get you, once I am rescued, he would make an effort to go get the dog.
Once they send down the hook for the second time, I hook that up to me. I get the survivor hooked in the rescue sling that we have, get that wrapped around him. So now we're hooked together and we ride up together.
But there was no telling how much longer their dog Reggie would survive on a sinking boat.
How are we gonna get this dog safely before the boat goes down? Because I'm thinking 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe.
Coming up, time is running out for Reggie, the stranded dog.
We were a little worried about the boat if it was still sinking.
But first, a tip to keep you safe in the ocean.
There's nothing more relaxing than a day at the beach. But did you know the ocean can turn from tranquil to turbulent in just seconds?
If you encounter a distressed person in the ocean, don't go in after them unless you're an experienced lifeguard. There may be hazards like riptides that put you in danger. First, signal for help by waving your towel, then quickly call 911. Finally, do your best to keep them in sight until help arrives.
The rule is simple. If you see someone struggling in the ocean, stay calm, call for help, and unless you're capable, don't go after them. the Coast Guard had rescued Miles and April Coleman as they clung to a buoy in the water off of Savannah, Georgia.
Now, their rescue mission turned to the family dog, trapped on a sinking boat.
After we got them situated in the helicopter, I told our crew that we needed to move over to the boat and go get the dog.
We repositioned over to the boat, and yep, there the dog is, just standing there.
We were a little worried about the boat if it was still sinking. We didn't know. You never really want to hoist to a platform that could be potential move or sink or cause danger. So we actually elected to put Brian in the water next to the boat.
Once I got down to the boat, I tried to make contact with the dog. He just walked away from me. He was not having any part of me. And he basically walked on the boat until he couldn't walk anymore.
I'm like, please don't be difficult, because when that boat goes over, he's going to have so much more difficult time to get a hold of the dog and get him to safety.
He was kind of trapped by the guardrail, and at that point, I guess he realized there was nowhere else he could go. He just kind of sat there, and he let me grab a hold of him.
We gave the signal, and they lowered the basket down and put the dog in the basket, and he came up with the dog in the basket, holding on to the dog.
I'm holding on to him to make sure that he doesn't do any sudden movements once we start going up. I've seen before where animals will freak out, and they've done some wild things, so I wanted to make sure he didn't jump out of the basket halfway up the hoist.
Once everyone was on board, there was a huge sigh of relief.
It was like another big adrenaline release. Everyone was excited. Finally, the dog was safe too. Everybody's safe.
Very thankful. They're very thankful. The guy was shaking our hands.
It was a bad situation for that boat, but now everyone is good to go, and it's time for us to head back to the airfield here.
Couldn't express more gratitude, more understanding of how difficult their job is, the way they handled it, the precision, the flying skills, swimming skills, people skills. They all just couldn't have been better from the minute they showed up.
Of course, incredible rescues like this one don't happen by accident. They take countless hours of training.
Teamwork is key and vital to the success of our mission. It takes all 4 people in the helicopter to do it, so maintaining proficiency is crucial.
Sheldon Yellen of our sponsor, Belfour Property Restoration, recently got a chance to participate in one of these elite helicopter training missions.
How often do you train?
We like to train as much as aircraft allow us to train with not being broken, but we have certain mids that we have to hit every certain biannual, and we make sure we have to hit those. If we don't hit those, then we aren't allowed to fly anymore. So it's very essential that we hit those mids to allow us to do our mission correctly.
How intensive is this training? What is the regimen you guys are going through?
We go and practice like it's real. So we go hoisting with different pilots, different aircrew, different rescue swimmers to make sure that we're all on the same exact page when the mission comes.
So what I'm getting from this is that you are the ones that are doing the training. You're the professionals. You guys are the experts. And anybody on the receiving end of a rescue has to listen to the instruction and to the benefit of your knowledge to get to safety.
Yes, sir. It's very vital for the victim to stay calm and just listen to our instructions, because we are the professionals to help you get back home.
Because of their training and commitment to helping others, the members of the Coast Guard are protecting people's lives every day.
The opportunity to go save someone's life is huge. The spike. We have our mission. This is what we train for. This is what we're going to do as a team.
Having that feeling of helping someone is really what it is. And I guess in a way that's a pat on the back. So it is gratifying to get that.
It's just amazing to watch them firsthand, knowing their abilities and people skills, navigation, equipment, utilization of everything that they have. And every time the Coast Guard does a spectacular job.
Coming up, a sheriff deputy rushes into the flames to save people in a blazing fire.
She said, I can't open my door. I can't open my door.
All first responders have a shared commitment to serving their community. So when someone goes from being a career firefighter to a deputy sheriff, it's safe to say that service is in their DNA.
When a fire broke out in an apartment complex in Florida, one sheriff's deputy relied on his firefighting experience to try and save the lives of the people inside.
Just a stone's throw from Jacksonville, Florida, you'll find Bradford County.
Bradford County is a rural community, about 28,000 population. Good place to raise a family and just a lot of small town charm.
This sparsely populated area relies on a small but dedicated group of first responders.
On average, we run 4 deputies on patrol at any given time.
Robert Malley has been a sheriff deputy for about 8 years, but his history of community service reaches back much further.
I'm a retired firefighter paramedic by trade. Originally, I got into law enforcement back in 2015.
In February of 2023, Deputy Malley would once again find himself in the center of a giant fire.
It was early in the morning when the call came in. They had advised that they had a structure fire, a house fully involved per the callers, and that there were elderly people trapped inside.
It was still dark when Deputy Malley raced to the scene.
As I pulled up, I could see the flames were rolling out of the roof. There was smoke. The house was fully involved on the roof section.
Firefighters hadn't arrived yet, and with victims trapped inside, Malley knew he had to act quickly, but the front door was locked.
I was able to get up onto the porch and kick the door, make entry into the door. And I've kicked several doors over the years, so I found the spot by the lock and I just laid into it.
Malley rushed inside and found a frightened resident on the first floor.
Your house is on fire, come on. She's confused because obviously we just woke her up in the early morning hours. She has no idea that her house is on fire. Once we got her out, we ascertained there was the second lady and it was time to go back in after her.
Malley then raced up to the second level.
At that point, you could feel the heat. And as I rounded the corner, the power went out from the fire in the roof. So we went to flashlights and started banging doors. Doors open. Police department!
Meanwhile, Sheriff Deputy Trenton Lovell showed up.
I seen flames that were 20, 30 foot from the top of the house, covering the entire roof. And then I was like, this is bad, we need to get these people out as soon as possible.
That was an old wood house, so it could have spread rapidly in any direction quickly.
Deputy Malley found an elderly woman trapped behind a door.
Police department! She couldn't figure out how to open her door. She had forgotten there was a lock in the actual upper top part of her door. She said, I can't open my door, I can't open my door.
Because of the deadbolt and the strength of the door frame, Malley couldn't kick this door in.
We would have had to wait to get a Halligan tool or something to try to force it open.
But there was no time for that.
The fire was actively burning over top of her apartment, which means her roof could have collapsed at any time. I'm just telling her, take a deep breath, calm down, just reach up there, find the lock, unlock the lock, let's get the door open, we'll get you out.
With seconds to spare, the woman finally got her door open.
When she opens the door, there's just a ton of smoke that rolls out behind her.
All I could see was smoke. We couldn't see maybe even 2 foot behind her. It was nothing but smoke. I helped her down the stairs. They were also in the back just to make sure that she didn't fall backwards.
Rolling, boy, that attic called fire. Good job, man. Yeah, brother.
With the woman safely out of the building, the fire department went to work.
The level of resources that this fire took to extinguish was pretty extensive.
The building was virtually destroyed, but everyone survived thanks to some brave deputies and the quick actions of one former firefighter.
To be a fireman, it's just something that you don't ever lose. You never lose that drive, you never lose that motivation and that love for the job.
He got the Silver Star for his bravery, which, I mean, that's, a lot of people aren't just gonna kick in a door or run into a burning house.
I'm humble but very proud. I wouldn't change it. Whether I got recognition or not, I still would have run in the house and done the same thing I did.
I think that anybody that wears, this uniform or Sheriff's Office uniform or EMS, I think all those people are heroes. He was met with that opportunity and he absolutely lived up to that badge.
They say that the key to success is training and preparation. That's especially true when it comes to first responders.
With virtually no margin for error, these heroes train to get it right every time. Thankfully, they've got the bravery and fortitude to face that challenge repeatedly. Thank you so much for watching.
We'll see you next time on Hearts of Heroes.